So we are so lucky to have Shondale here, our friend Shondale, who, yay, was an instructor at Red Rocks a couple of years ago and even took a couple of classes with us just to up your skills. And you've done a ton of amazing things since then. So we wanted to kind of check in with you.
Yeah.
Where did you go after Red Rocks?
So just shortly after Red Rocks, my wife and we moved to London, England. And it was a very interesting process because earlier that year, early in 2017, I had done an audition for this program called the ERDAs. That what you know about because you had like kind of plugged that, put that on my radar when we were
Yeah.
talking. And yeah, it was cool. We went to Chicago and we did the audition, and it was basically like a cattle call in front of like 100 different universities that specifically were tailored for graduate school theater programs. And
Mm-hmm.
so through that, there was a school that I had done my research about called East 15, and it was just outside of London. It's like I don't know, about 20 minutes outside of London in a nice remote like cottage area, like your typical English,
Nice.
cottage, and and we started talking, and I submitted all the paperwork for them, and they accepted me to the college. And literally just after my time at Red Rocks in that September of 2017, we were on a plane and off to London, England for 2 years. And we just got back. I say just now, but I mean, it's been about 7-8 months now since we've been back. But we got back in September of this last year, 2019.
Wow.
So, and we didn't take any breaks or anything.
Oh my
Just,
gosh. Did
yeah.
did you did some amazing things when you were there too. You were at the Edinburgh Festival and all sorts of anything you want to
Yes.
share about?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So, I'll even go back a little bit further to
Good.
the coolest thing that I did there. Probably the coolest thing I've probably ever done was part of the program has a residency at Shakespeare's Globe Theater. And
Wow.
so that was an incredible experience. When we first got there, I think the first week of school, they gave us tickets to go see a show down there, which was King Lear. And
Oh,
I mean, and they had just, I mean, there's no microphones. It's just the big, the Globe is the theater, like, in the round, but with the stage that comes out, and the
mhm.
tiers, the 3 tiers with the groundlings, right there on the
Yeah.
bottom. And so just seeing it, I can truly say that I've done Shakespeare before, but I wasn't like, oh yeah, Shakespeare, until I walked into that space and I was like, I get it now, I get it,
Yeah.
and so that was really cool having that residency down there for 7 weeks. We
Wow.
did the Merchant of Venice, like an abridged version of the Merchant of Venice, and we
Gosh.
got to perform it at the end. We worked with some of like the resident, Globe practitioners there who had worked with people like Ian McKellen, and like
Whoa.
and the director who I worked with, he was like good friends with Dame Judi Dench. And I was like, oh man, I was like, bring her in here if you're such good friends. Tell her
Yeah.
to come
Tell
on
her to
down.
stop by.
I was like, tell her, we'll show her our chops after we're done with this, and she can,
Yeah.
put in a good word
Yeah.
for us. But no, like that was the coolest experience that I had there. And then that next summer, after that first school year was done, because the first school year is all training and learning the process and all that kind of stuff. Um, we did one of my friends from the directing course, because they have a directing course at the school as well. He came up to me one day at lunch and he's like, "Hey, Shondale, what are you doing for this summer?" And I was like, I don't know, probably looking for either internships or getting into shows or something. I'm still up in the air. He's like, I'm directing a show up at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and I
Oh my
just
gosh.
wanted to see if you wanted to come and be a part of this show. And I was like, interesting. I was like, I didn't. I feel like looking back now, I was so ignorant. I should have known about all these things. But I was like, oh, the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. I mean, that sounds like a good way to use my time. But I did not recognize the magnitude of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Wow.
And so basically we did two devised shows, which is where we created our own shows from nothing, and with a concept, and then just improved our way through, to some ideas in order to like kind of create our own script. One was called Splashback, which was an adult show, but it was very fun. It was about a guy whose name is Bernard, who is the bathroom attendant. And that's who I played. I played the bathroom attendant, but it was a musical. And so we're singing songs about, his woes, and then other people who come in, as the night goes on. And then actually I found out that they'll be doing a streaming service of that particular show.
Oh, great.
Coming up here soon for the online Fringe thing to the director.
Good. You'll have to let us know so we can share it on our social media.
Yeah.
All that. That's great.
I'll definitely do that. It's really funny. You'll laugh. But the other one was a little bit more serious in tone. It was a social commentary on education in the UK. And it was called High School English, and it was about 4 students with varying levels of mental disabilities. And so my character had borderline personality disorder. And then another character who had was autistic. Another one was just ADD. And then, so then we were all put into this one classroom with the teacher. And it was a commentary on how, teachers have limited resources, especially in these areas, and trying to bring that to light. And the Fringe is a beast. So it's not like, you have hundreds and hundreds of different shows that you can see at any given time of day for an entire month in Scotland. And so just choosing 2 plays to see is difficult, and so when you go out there, when you're doing any sort of like Fringe festival, as I'm sure it probably is the same here now in the States, like you have your flyers, you have your, brochures and stuff that you're just like standing on the street corners, just hustling. Really? Yeah. Oh yeah. Just getting people to come. And it was cool because with the Fringe festival in Edinburgh, everybody, the town literally doubles in size. It's a pretty small, quiet town with just like, a couple thousand, like a few thousand people or whatever. But then that 1 month, you can't, it's like downtown London. It's like you can't move there. You're kind of like brushing through people, and there are theaters everywhere. They make makeshift theaters everywhere. So you're running around. I think I lost like 20 pounds just running from place to place. Yeah. Cause I had 2 shows in a day, which was also unheard of. And so,
wow.
It was just I could go on and on about that experience. You can stop me whenever you want to.
No, that is so cool. And the fact that you were just doing good work, and that people kind of led you into that, not even knowing how cool it was until you got there, and what a reputation it has and all that. That's so great.
Yeah, and if I could say one more thing about it, I would say the thing that benefited me the most coming out of it was my appreciation, my further appreciation for theater, and just the creativity that devised theater can produce. Like there were some shows that I saw that it's all devised stuff. Like all these people are like writing their own scripts or like improvising their way through, or they had like your standard crowd favorites. Like they had a Drunken Shakespeare. It's the title. I changed the title for PG audiences, but it was Drunken Shakespeare. So they got up there and they would get drunk before the show. One person had to get like really drunk, and then they'd go out there and perform Hamlet. And so it was really mostly funny just to see, and then the crowd gets to participate. If something goes wrong, and they had to say, "Okay, give him a drink," and so he has to, drink more beers and stuff like this.
Oh, that's hilarious!
But it's just all the shows. I think in all throughout that whole month, I saw somewhere close to like 70 shows.
Wow!
And
what a jump for your own creativity.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I learned so much. Learned so much about like just basically all levels of theater, you know, like from lighting to directing to acting to devising. Like it was a really beneficial experience just for a theater goer. It was
Yeah,
really
our
cool.
students are going to love this part because they've been wanting us to add a devising class.
Oh yeah.
And so we're working on adding one in the spring.
Oh
And really excited about that opportunity. And also we might be devising one of our shows this fall. So um, we haven't done a whole lot of that at Red Rock. So it's really, really going to be cool. I'm glad to hear
yeah.
that you loved it.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. I wasn't familiar with devised theater before going there, and so um, I approached it kind of in the same kind of tentative attitude as you know, Shakespeare. I was like, uh-oh, like what do we do here? But you know, the process is really fun. I think your students will really enjoy it, especially if any of them have a background in improvisation,
Okay. Yeah.
which luckily I had I had a background in improv, and so that helped kind of ease my tensions in the rehearsal process. But knowing that it was going to be a script was like, ooh, you know.
Yeah.
So if they have any experience in that, that will definitely aid, you know, in
Great.
there.
Great. I'm
And
looking forward to seeing where that goes with all of them.
yeah,
It'll be fun.
yeah.
So we have you now directing one of our shows this summer on Zoom. Thank you
Hmm.
for doing that from Ohio, where you are now.
Yes,
Um,
lovely Ohio.
Ohio, yeah. And I mean, this is the advantage that we get to reconnect with you with COVID-19 is, we can, because we're doing things on Zoom and
Mm.
virtually. Uh, what do you prefer, directing or acting?
Oh,
Or both?
you know, I I've always been an actor, and I will always be an actor, and I think that's basically where I stand with it. I'd say directing is um, equally fun, yeah,
Uh-huh.
but in a different way. It reinforces what I know as an actor, and it helps me become a better actor when I direct because I get to talk about all these things and like help others, you know. And it gives me, well, how should I put this? It gives me a good challenge because I get to help other actors through their trouble points, you know what I mean? And like kind of help them through their breakthrough points along the process, and gives me a way to communicate. It teaches me how to communicate better with actors and just know how I want to be communicated to as an actor, you
Right,
know?
absolutely. And from what I've heard of students working through this process with you, they love that you're giving them all this homework right now,
Mm,
because basically you're reusing a lot of the stuff that you just learned in England, and teaching them how you know deeper processes and everything. I think they've really enjoyed the work that you're giving them to do on their characters and everything. Is it fun to put that into play right away?
oh yeah, most definitely. I could say that when I was over there, even just that first year, I would say the first 3 months, I was like, I cannot wait to come back and teach some of this, you know,
Nice. Yes.
because it's just gold mine. It's just a gold mine for information. One of the things that we can't do, you know, over Zoom that I
Uh-huh.
really enjoyed was this thing called targeted improvisations that
Mm,
my mentor taught us. We were doing the play The Deep Blue Sea. I don't know if you've ever read The Deep Blue Sea, but it's
I have.
Radigan is his last name, but he's a very famous UK writer. But um, they also made a film out of it with Rachel Weisz and Tom Hiddleston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but anyway, so
To look
we were
that up.
in the middle of like that play, and we had to do these things called target improvisations, which is where you, as you're going along like with the research of the character and like reading through the script and stuff, if there's any kind of references to the past that aren't acted out, or if there's any moments that you're like, oh, I wonder what that moment looks like you know, then you would create an improvisation as long as or short as it needed to be in order to fill in that particular, you know, memory, so that when you're acting it out, you have this sensory detail now of like this memory that you have actively had. And I
Mm-hmm.
just found it so helpful. Like, for
Yeah.
example, there was a scene where um, the husband and wife are talking about a party that they had gone to years and years ago, and how much fun it was, and oh, so and so is there, and oh, Lord blah blah was there, and da da da. And so, we don't really, that's the only mention of it in the play, but because it leads into a very serious moment where they talk about what happened to our past and why aren't we together and what kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
what happened to all the good times. um, my colleague was like, I want to see, what that moment looked like for them and how they
Like
reacted.
happy.
And so, yeah. And
Uh-huh.
so we set up the scene, grabbed a couple of chairs and tables, and like, we actually for that one, we rented out the top part of a coffee shop, because it was a banquet style looking place, and it looked like you could have a party in there. And so we
Uh-huh.
just went in there. We're like, hey, we're going to use the top part of your coffee shop for our acting class. And they're
Right.
like, okay. And so we just improved it out, and that amplified our experience in that play, and our performances like tenfold. And so,
Yeah.
I wish that could be something that I could, you
Yeah,
know,
that's an excellent exercise. I mean, because you're creating those layers of the character, and you're right, it's sort of in your body then if you acted it out.
yeah,
Uh, that's
yeah,
amazing. We're
yeah.
going to use that.
Oh,
Um,
you definitely should. Oh, you definitely should. Definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
I love.
Um,
Any
so
other
yes,
ones any other exercises that really stick out?
yeah, there were, let's see, we did the targeted improv. Oh, a lot of the program was physical movement,
Mm-hmm.
actually.
Mm-hmm.
And two of the things that we had learned, one was animal studies. And I mean, in improv, or even in acting in general, you kind of touch a little bit on, oh, you're an animal that morphs now into a human. What does that look like? Da, da, da. But we went through the entire process of that.
Wow.
So each of us were assigned an animal, and
Mm-hmm.
I was a baby tiger. And what we had to do was we basically started with the movements of different types of animals, like how does a bear move, how does a dog move, just to get into our bodies different ways of how different animals from all over the spectrum move, rabbits and frogs and da da da. I mean, like, if you could look into the window of the classes that we were doing, you'd be like, what
Going on
is this?
there.
Yeah, what is going on? People are hopping and sniffing each other and like nibbling off I mean, it looked, from the outside looking in, I know it looked weird, but it's acting, you know what I mean? You have to just let all that go. But that was really fun because it taught me another level of physicalization. It really, especially for the character that I played in that last trimester in my first year, I got to use a lot of those traits of my baby tiger
Uh-huh.
in creating this character that I played, which was the father, the patriarch of this semi-wealthy Croatian family. And so I used like a lot of the baby tiger, like facial expressions, and like, like how he moves his eyes, and how he like, there's a lot of the facial movements, really,
Yeah.
mostly. But I mean, it got even deeper than that. There were people who, was a girl who was a sloth, and she played an old woman. And so, she would use like the movement of a sloth, and like kind of how the sloth has its curled hands, and she
Yeah.
just used all of that in her physicalizations of her character, which made it look, I mean, she looked 100% like she was a 90-year-old, and she's, my age, she's in her
Wow.
30s. And so it was just really, really, that was really helpful. And then one other one was in physical movement, where we were toying with our, how do I put it? It was like we were toying with attachments, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we're going through this class, and we're talking about, okay, you have like a balloon, or you have a kite, or you have, a friend or something like that. And you're messing around with these different kind of physical attachments that you have to something. And what does it look like when you have, when you're completely happy and 100% with these attachments, and then all of a sudden it just like your kite flies away. And, you know, what happens to you when you lose those attachments? Are you like sad about it? Are you really hurt by it? What is it? You know, like
Yeah.
how do these different things that are attached to you affect you in the moment? And we played with the whole range of like, oh, I could let it go, to like, I can't live anymore because my kite has just flown away. And so at the end of every trimester that first year, we had to write a dissertation, basically like a short dissertation on our feedback of the semester, and so, or the trimester. And so one of the things that I wrote specifically about was that attachment assignment, because I got to use that again in, you know, my performances, because my character went through a lot of loss, and it happened gradually throughout the show. And so it was like he's trying his hardest to hold on to all these things, all these attachments that he has: his kids, his wife, his home, his whole cultural understanding, and just the fact that, you know, just utilizing that tool of, you know, I'm losing my attachment and what I'm going to do to hold on to it, really brought out another layer, you know. So there was just a bunch of little things, you know, a bunch of things that really took acting to the next level for me.
That's so great. You're really helping us make the connection between those improv exercises and then how you use it in an actual show. Because I think sometimes, especially for newer actors, they're like, why are you making me act like an animal? What does that have to do with anything? And so thank you for making those, showing us, you know, your observation techniques and how they cross into so many other things that you do when you get it, you know, when you're in the professional world, when you're assigned a role, and how to dig into those characters and how useful they are. I mean, it's as goofy as they look to the outsider, like you said, walking by, be like, what the, they pay them to do that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I would say as an actor who's been in that position, the best advice that I've ever gotten is just trust the process. Like, as if you trust the process and you don't, I mean, it's okay to ask questions about it, you know, for clarification and stuff like that. You know, that's great. But because it shows an engaged, you know, engagement in the process. But if you're just kind of like skeptical about it, then you don't open yourself up to learning and observing how much better your performance will get because of it. It's just trust the process, and all the little weird things make sense. They really do.
They will come in handy.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to the project that you're working on right now, with us, thank you, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
What has it been like to direct on Zoom?
You know, Zoom has it's been a lot of fun. There's some challenges with it, obviously, because you're just not physically in the room with the actors, so you can't really engage the way you want to. But surprisingly, you can engage and you can still get the same amount of work done, you know, as in Zoom as you can in a rehearsal room. And it's fun to play around with the possibilities of Zoom. I know that, you know, in some of our meetings we've talked about playing with backgrounds and different colors, and how do we, you know, mess around with, you know, the shades and the lightings and stuff like that. And so just being able to have those conversations and explore the realm of still being able to perform and still being able to put out good work despite the circumstances is very exciting. I mean, it's exciting to see how we can utilize this new tool.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're so lucky we're in a technological period where we have this as an option, and we're not just separated from each other, you know, that we're able to make art in a slightly different way until the theaters reopen.
Yes, hopefully that moment will be sooner rather than later.
Yeah, exactly, because we're all really missing that. Yeah, absolutely. So I know that you have some other exciting professional projects you're working on now too. Anything you want to share with us?
I do. So a few months ago, some really good colleagues and friends of mine from grad school, excuse me, we started our own theater company.
Awesome.
And so, and we were basically right now in the final stages of putting out voice work that specifically focuses on new works.
Oh,
And
awesome.
so we have, I think we're going to do a season. Our first season is going to have 7 episodes, but they're all going to be, audio dramas that showcase plays that from new writers or from new, producers and stuff like that. And so I'm trying to figure out what more I can say about it, but I will say that it came to me literally in the middle of the night. I think I had just I had rolled over and I wasn't sleeping well one night, and your thoughts just kind of go, and I was like, because in this time, especially it was right at the beginning of the coronavirus. And so my show that I was in had just shut down, and I had already been kind of thinking in my mind, what can I do to create my own work? Because they really hounded that into us at grad school. They're like, create your own work. So I'll be looking for actors,
Awesome.
from all over the place, for each of these different shows. I mean, we have our core group, which is myself, and three other of my friends, who will be performing for the most part the not the main parts of the play, but we have a resident director who will assign us those parts, and then we will gather actors from outside to fill in the rest, so we're not just doing a bunch of voice work, but so this is an opportunity to kind of give everybody work, and so I'm really excited.
Yeah. I have one last just goofy question for you. I was thinking about this the other day. When you were there, when you're doing the shows there for grad school, did you have to really work your British accent? Or were you American? How did that work?
Yes, I did. That whole first year was RP.
Was it?
Yeah. I mean, every day we had voice class. And so it was funny. Yeah. Every show we did, they were like, okay, yes, your RP, it could be a little better, but and then by the end, the first year, I think everyone had it pretty much nailed down. But in that second year, we really didn't work on it a lot, because, just depending on the role that you got for the show, because they do the second year in rep. So you're just in a company, they put you in a group of folks and you do theater and rep. And so we didn't really have, I didn't have any roles that lent itself to RP that second year.
Yeah.
And so until the very last show, I needed to pull it out for a little small bit,
oh geez,
really tiny. And I struggled so much. And even the director, she was like, I'm really surprised to see that, you all have learned RP, but you can't just pull it out. I was like, look, lady.
Really.
It's been a whole year.
Yeah. That's so great that you got to spend a year on it, because, I mean, the times that I've had to, for shows, use RP, you spend months ahead of time practicing and listening to recordings and getting it in your mouth, and it takes time to work those dialects. It really takes time. So the fact that you got to sit in it for a year is golden.
Oh yeah, I mean, I kept all of my voice notes and stuff. They gave us sheets on placement and all that kind of stuff, and so I kept all of that because I know that I want to use it. I want to use it soon, but who knows?
Yeah. And you know the process now, so when you need it, you know how to go back and practice it back in,
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Can I say one other cool thing that we did in that school year? So part of our final was a dissertation where we had to write our own 7-minute monologue.
Really? 7 minutes?
7 minutes. Yeah. And that started at the very beginning of the second year. So you basically, what's going to happen at the very beginning of your first year. But then, so you spend that whole first year basically thinking about who you're going to write this monologue about. And you can choose any character that's ever been on stage. As long as it's been on stage somewhere, you can choose that character and write, your own version of a monologue around that character. So you do the research and all that stuff.
Wow.
And I chose the Wizard of Oz.
That's great.
Yeah, I'll have to find the video and I'll send it to you.
I want to see. Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Can we share it on our?
Oh,
yeah.
of course. Oh,
Great.
yeah, definitely. It was just a really fun process, and as scary as it was thinking at first, it was like, oh man, how am I going to write a 7-minute monologue?
Right.
How am I going to write this? It was over in a flash, and
really?
And it was as fun as it could have ever been, especially that particular character. But
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
That's so great. That just makes me so happy. I remember when you both first left for for England, and you were, and then I checked in with you a couple months in, and you said, they're kicking my butt here. And it was like,
Yes.
this is a scary place. And then to know how you flourished, how it's exactly where you needed to be and where you should have been, and you deserve to be there, and just what's come out of that and where you're going now is, we'll just keep being your fans now from now on, as usual.
Yeah, it is great. It is great to look back and see that I accomplished that.
Yeah.
For the mere fact that it was kicking my butt.
Yes. And it's this profession is not easy, and it's a process, and it takes a while, and you're going to be uncomfortable at some point,
Oh yeah.
if you do it well.
And I think that's what a lot of folks learn. I know that, my wife Luciana, and then our housemates, because we lived with another couple basically the whole time we were there, and so which was another cultural change. It was very interesting. But anyway, that was what I think the thing that they had all learned just from observing me coming back to and fro from school. They're like, wow, like you really, it's really intense what you guys are doing over there. And like the work that I was bringing home, just like going into the characters and writing down all that homework that I gave to the students for this, Fading Fast play is the same thing that I had to do every day. And so it's just, yeah.
Great. Oh, that's just so cool. And thanks a million for passing it on, even a bit of it to our students. And I guess we can make the plug now for Fading Fast will be June 25th, 26th, 27th. From this recording, that's next Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It'll be a live stream on our Facebook page, and we'll have more information up on that. And we'll also have a recording of it that'll be available after those dates. So we're learning the technology. It should be fun.
Yes.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you
for lending your talents and everything. It's so exciting.
No, thank you, Kelly Jo. Yeah, it's been fun. And it's great to be reconnected with Red Rocks again. I'm just happy to see y'all.